Hey, welcome back. We're on chapter 19. Chapter 19 is called The Inventing Room, Everlasting Gobstoppers, and Hair Toffee. When Mr. Wonka shouted, "Stop the boat!" the Oompa-Loompas jammed their oars into the river and backed water furiously, and the boat stopped. The Oompa-Loompas guided the boat alongside the red door. On the door it said, "Inventing Room, Private, Keep Out." Mr. Wonka took a key from his pocket, leaned over to the side of the boat, and put the key in the keyhole. "This is the most important room in my entire factory," he said. "All my most secret and new inventions are cooking and simmering in here. Old Fickelgruber would give his front teeth to be allowed inside for just 3 minutes. So would Prodnose and Slugworth and all the other rotten chocolate makers. But now listen to me. I want no messing about when you go in. No touching, no meddling, no tasting. Is that agreed?" "Yes, yes," the children cried. "We won't touch a thing." "Up to now," Mr. Wonka said, "nobody else, not even an Oompa-Loompa, has ever been allowed in here." He opened the door and stepped out of the boat into the room. The 4 children and their parents all scrambled in after him. "Don't touch!" shouted Mr. Wonka, "and don't knock anything over." Charlie Bucket stared around the gigantic room in which he now found himself. The place was like a witch's kitchen. All about him, black metal pots were boiling and bubbling on huge stoves, and kettles were hissing, and pans were sizzling, and strange iron machines were clanking and sputtering, and there were pipes running all over the ceiling and walls, and the whole place was filled with smoke and steam and delicious, rich smells. Mr. Wonka himself had suddenly become even more excited than usual, and anyone could see that this was the room that he loved the best of all. He was hopping about the saucepans and the machines like a child among Christmas presents, not knowing which thing to look at first. He lifted a lid from a huge pot and took a sniff, and then he rushed over and dipped a finger into a barrel of sticky yellow stuff and had a taste, and then he skipped across to one of the machines and turned half dozen knobs this way and that, and he peered anxiously through a glass door of a gigantic oven, rubbing his hands together and cackling with delight at what he saw. And then he ran over to another machine, a small, shiny affair that kept going, and every time it went, a large green marble dropped out of it into a basket on the floor. At least it looked like a marble. "Everlasting Gobstoppers," cried Mr. Wonka proudly. "They're completely new. I'm inventing them for children who are given very little pocket money. You can put an everlasting gobstopper in your mouth and you can suck it and suck it and suck it and suck it and suck it, and it will never get any smaller." "It's like gum," said Violet Beauregard. "It's not like gum," said Mr. Wonka. "Gum is for chewing, and if you try to chew one of these gobstoppers here, you'd break your teeth off. But they taste terrific, and they change color once a week. And they never get smaller. They never disappear, never. At least I don't think they do. There's one of them being tested this very moment in the testing room next door, and Oompa-Loompa's sucking on it. He's been sucking on it for almost a year now without any stopping, and it's still as good as ever. Now, over here," Mr. Wonka went on, skipping excitedly across the room to the opposite wall. "Over here is where I'm inventing a completely new line of toffees." He stopped beside a large saucepan. The saucepan was full of a thick, gooey, purplish treacle, boiling and bubbling. By standing on his toes, little Charlie could just see inside it. "That's hair toffee," said Mr. Wonka. "You eat just one tiny bit of that, and in exactly, exactly half an hour, a brand new, lustrous, thick, silky, beautiful crop of hair will start growing out all over the top of your head. And a mustache and a beard." "A beard?" said Veruca Salt. "Who wants a beard, for heaven's sake?" "Oh, it would look very good on you," said Mr. Wonka. "But unfortunately, the mixture's not quite right yet. I've got it too strong. It works too well. I tried it on an Oompa-Loompa yesterday in the testing room, and immediately a huge beard started shooting out of his chin. And the beard grew so fast that soon it was trailing all over the floor in a thick, hairy carpet. And it was growing faster than we could cut it. And in the end, we had to use a lawnmower to keep it in check. Yeah, but I'll get it right soon. And when I do, there'll be no excuse for any little boys and little girls to be going around with bald heads anymore." "But Mr. Wonka," said Mike TV, "little boys and little girls don't go around with "Don't argue with me, my dear child. Please don't argue," cried Mr. Wonka. "It's such a waste of precious time. Now, over here, if you'll step this way, I'll show you something that I am terrifically proud of. Oh, do be careful. Don't knock anything over. Stand back." We'll read chapter 20 tomorrow.